Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter what time it is where you are right now, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. For those of you who are new, my name is Madison or Maddie, and I love to make content on health, wealth, happiness, and living your best luxury lifestyle. Now, without further ado, today's topic is going to be how I lost weight and have kept it off ever since, and kind of how I went about my weight loss journey. So, for those of you who don't know, I kind of fluctuated between a healthy normal weight and to have excess weight, and I've struggled with that since childhood. During childhood, I remember just sort of not having any rules around food. So, on one hand, it was very positive because I wasn't restricting myself or having unhealthy relationships with food per se. But on the other hand, I did have a lot of questions like, why am I not a normal weight? Or how much do I need to exercise? And just had a confused outlook on my whole situation until I hit college. And when I entered college, I realized, wow, I don't want to gain the freshman 15. In fact, I could lose 15 pounds. So I set out on a mission to do just that. And I ended up losing 25 pounds at one point, which led me to be kind of slightly underweight. So I managed during the pandemic to sort of get myself readjusted to a weight that I felt comfortable in and a weight that didn't stress me out if I were to gain or lose, say, 5 pounds. And in college, it was a long journey. It didn't happen overnight. Freshman year, I was successful in losing the weight, but then I psychologically did struggle a lot of the time, using food as my only tool to feel in control of my life. Now, if you've gone through this journey yourself, you know that over restricting doesn't work. Obsessing doesn't work, dieting doesn't work. So, in today's episode, I really just want to share the truth, at least my truth, on how I got to where I am today, which is happy, healthy, and honestly, a weight that I could foresee myself maintaining for the rest of my life, so long as I have this mindset and mentality that I want to share with you now. So I'm going ahead and sharing this presentation about how I finally lost weight and started to eat healthy. Now, before we dive in, be sure to follow me on social media at MADIFUJ. That's MADIFUJ across most of my social media handles, and I'll have that link in the description as well. So, the first thing that I did was educate myself. Now, be sure to educate yourself far and wide. What this means is that you want to learn about what nutrition even is, what are the different diets that are out there, what are the benefits, what are the cons, the pros and cons of each diet, and sort of just start to learn about the different vitamins and minerals, what food has those vitamins and minerals that are essential, what are carbs, what are fats, what are proteins, and so forth. Once you sort of educate yourself on the chemistry, the biology, and the science behind nutrition, then you'll have a much more confident stance on what the right things are to eat and what to perhaps consume less of. And overall, you'll just feel a lot more confident in your ability to actually embark on this journey and become successful long term. Without that education, you're sort of at the mercy of influencers and friends who diet to kind of try to copy and imitate what they're doing without a true understanding of why they're doing what they're doing, how that impacts their body, and truly, diets that are destructive can be easily followed unless you have the education about the dangers of certain diets that are out there. I tried dieting myself and I found that I really just needed to create a custom plan for my own self instead of trying to follow someone else. But it's difficult to get to that point unless you have the foundational knowledge at your disposal. So, by researching academic studies, scientific studies, by experimenting, and trying to understand what foods do what for your body and how that makes you feel when you consume them will be probably the biggest game changer, which is why I put this as the first point. So before you even start, or as you're getting started, be sure to educate yourself, read the studies, and perhaps you'll look at a nutrition label and ask yourself, what does this vitamin actually do? All you have to do is a quick Google search, and boom, you have an answer. So I use Google like a dictionary to really educate myself, empower myself with knowledge. So I highly recommend that you do the same. Now, after you sort of began the education process, it's really important that you ask yourself, what healthy foods do I like to eat? The reason you want to ask this is because it's really difficult to try to change your entire diet overnight or even over a long period of time. The body knows what it likes, your mind knows what it craves, and so it's important to try to detect what are you already doing that's a big win. What foods that are healthy do you already consume that you can just simply check off that box and say, I can keep doing this and I don't have to change this about myself. I like avocados already. I like whole grain toast already. I already drink almond milk that doesn't have tons of processed ingredients inside of it, or whatever it is, right? Maybe you like eating salads already. So, by finding where you're already winning and detecting which healthy foods you like to eat, then it's just one less step for you and it helps you sort of imagine yourself doing it all the time, eating healthy foods all the time. Because let's say you're already 20% of the way there with that 20% of foods in your diet that are already healthy. So it's a big win. It's a nice check on that box when you can just detect what foods do I already like that I already eat that happen to be healthy. So I highly recommend just finding those foods that you already eat that are healthy. Now, when it comes to, you know, eating and going through life, you have to eat 3 meals a day. So it's really important that you start being conscious of what you put into your body. Now, the education component already helps you do this. Finding foods that are healthy that you eat already helps. But the third thing that helps you sort of navigate everyday situations, whether you're at the grocery store or you're at a fast food restaurant, however that looks, you want to make sure that you start the habit of reading the nutrition label and the ingredients on that label. So let's pretend you're at the grocery store and you go down the snacks aisle where all the chips and candies and pretzels and things are. There are still foods that you can buy that maybe they're processed, but they don't have the worst ingredients in the world, at least, right? So, what I recommend doing is start to read the label and be able to get to a place where you can kind of look at a food product and kind of already know how many calories it has, how many carbs, fiber, fat, trans fat, protein, added sugars, and all of the chemicals that could be inside of it. You'll already kind of have an idea of what foods to go for and what foods maybe you should have less of. So start reading the label, because I was personally shocked by how many calories was actually in something that looks pretty unsuspicious otherwise. Or you'll see that they'll market it as a diet food, but when you read the ingredient list, you'll see how many man-made chemicals are actually in that. So if there is an ingredient that you can't pronounce, or it's not clear that it's actually a whole food ingredient, then you know that this is a processed food and my body won't be able to digest this food and use the nutrients from it as well as it would with a whole food or an unprocessed food product. So, for example, right, let's pretend you have whole milk versus oat milk. These are two different types of milks. One is natural, the other is man made. You can still drink oat milk because of the health benefits that it brings about, except for when you read the ingredient list and see that this brand of oat milk actually is probably worse for me than the whole milk option, purely because of all these different gums, additives, preservatives, things I don't recognize. And the more pure you can be, the more natural you can be, the better. So that's why it's really important to read the label and ingredients, because a food product will shamelessly market themselves as being a diet friendly food or a weight loss friendly food until you realize that it's completely ultra processed and it's going to actually be worse for you than the food that God or the universe put on this planet for us to consume in its whole form. So think apples, oranges versus apple juice and orange juice, right? You could make your own juice from the fruit, but when you buy the juice, you have to make sure you're reading those ingredients, because you can have orange juice and apple juice that is pretty relatively healthy because the ingredients are quite natural. There's not added sugar, and it's just going to be much more closer to its natural state. But then you can also buy like Sunny D or apple juice with tons of added sugar, and you're not getting any of the benefits of the actual fruit. So you can make choices that improve your health while consuming the same exact food product just by reading the ingredients and going for the brands that don't have all these additives, sugars, and unnecessary things, and opt for the brand that tries to maintain a relatively clean ingredient list. So you wouldn't be able to make that differentiation without reading the ingredient list, which is why it's really important when you're at the store or when you're at a restaurant, if they have the nutrition information available, that you, at least to start, take the time to read it. Over time, you won't need to be this detailed because you'll sort of internalize it, as I mentioned. But at first, because you're sort of new and embarking in this journey for the first time, you'll want to do the reading as you shop, as you buy food, as you consume food. So the next point I want to make is that eating at home more often will help you in your weight loss journey, and here's why. When you eat at home, you see exactly what ingredients are going into the food that you're preparing. When you buy, say, a hamburger at McDonald's, you're not able to see close up how they're preparing it, what ingredients are involved, and how much salt, how much preservatives, and how many carbs are going into that hamburger. When you make that hamburger at home and you buy whole wheat buns, grass-fed beef, um, maybe you have cheese that's high quality cheese from your local farmer's market and some fresh produce that you got yourself, you're able to put it together in such a way where you're not adding preservatives or unnecessary amounts of salt, as an example, and you're able to control the portions and the proportions of ingredients going into that food. When you have that education and knowledge on what you're consuming, you're more likely to have a more normal weight. Think about it. Let's say you have a hamburger from McDonald's and a hamburger you grilled and prepared at home, right? McDonald's wants it to taste good. So they're going to add a lot of sodium and salt, a lot of fat and grease, and other things to just make it tasty, because the taste is what sells. They're not promoting health. However, when you make it at home, you know how to make things taste good to your preference without having to go overboard with the hyper palatable ingredients that McDonald's might use. You'll be able to control the portion of how much salt you want to go into that food. You're going to be able to manage how much fiber you're getting, an essential nutrient. You're going to be able to make it much more nutritious for yourself and be able to prioritize that and make it to taste on whatever feels tasteful to you. But you won't have to have that decision made for you by someone like McDonald's. So eating at home more often offers you a greater sense of control, portion control, ability to adjust it to what your diet needs, adjust it to your taste preferences, and at the same time, you will save money in the long run. Why is this? Well, the cost of eating out includes the cost of labor that had to go into that food. And you're also going to be buying something that is only going to last for one meal. Now, if you were to grocery shop from home and prepare most of your meals at home, you're going to be able to forego that cost of labor, and it will automatically bring the cost per meal down. On top of that, you'll be able to buy ingredients in bulk, which will also cheapen the cost per meal. So when it comes down to cost per meal, you're going to win by eating at home more often. And when it comes to how many calories, additives, preservatives, etc., you're going to be able to exercise 100% control over that factor because you'll be able to read the label, educate yourself, find foods that are healthy that you actually like, and all you got to do is put it all together in the comfort of your own home and save money all the while. Okay, now here's where things can get a little tricky. You want to make sure that as you're going through this process, you are honoring your body and your psychology. Everyone is different and responds differently to change. Some people might look at change and find it incredibly exciting and really go in full force. That's great. However, you can burn out along the way and get lazy or feel tired or something it just isn't clicking for you. This is where you want to have a good balance because whether it's a struggle mentally or physically, your body needs balance. You can't be go, go, go all the time. You can't be healthy, healthy, healthy all the time. The body ebbs and flows, and so does your psychology. I learned this when I felt burnt out. I felt like I was a prisoner in my own mind. I felt like food controlled me. But no, it should be the other way around. You are controlling the food. You are in the driver's seat. And as such, if you want a slice of pizza, have a slice of pizza. If you want chocolate, have the chocolate. Have the cookie. Have this and that. Because when you create restriction and you over deliver on that restriction, it's only natural for you mentally and physically to try to compensate by going the opposite direction. It's just like when you work out, you need downtime, you need recovery time, you need to rest and do nothing. So you're creating balance by matching action with inaction. And at the end of the day, it actually serves you because you're able to refill your battery, your physical battery, and execute again the next day. But if you don't get that downtime and you don't get that rest, then you're not able to come out of the gate as strong. So when it comes to food and nutrition, you want to make healthy choices most of the time, but you also don't want to have that unease and that cognitive dissonance when you want one thing, but your body says another thing, or your body wants something, but you are constantly shutting it down and suppressing the emotion. Avoid that. Just remember that you can have dessert, you can have junk food, you can have fast food. All of that is a natural part of indulging and pleasure. What's life without a little bit of indulgence and pleasure, right? So, this is why, as you go through this, to prevent burnout, to prevent yourself from giving up, or to prevent disordered eating, you're going to want to ensure that you're not being too tough on yourself and that you have a healthy balance. So, one rule of thumb that I personally enjoy using is 80/20. So, 80% of the calories in the food that I'm consuming is in its whole natural state or it's minimally processed. So, this means, I'm not restricting myself. So, I'm talking eggs, whole wheat, whole grain bread and rice. I'm talking um, chicken that I prepare at home, salmon that I prepare at home, fresh, healthy vegetables, even frozen vegetables, frozen fruits are great. I like to make smoothies. So, this is where my diet is currently. On the other hand, I love chocolate. I love food. I love dessert. I love cookies. So, you know what? Yeah, I have a cookie almost every day. In fact, I have a little bit of chocolate. I do what I want to do because at the end of the day, I've done the work. So I know when I feel a little bit of, I feel a little off or I feel a little this way or that way. That's how I know, okay, my body is telling me that I need to introduce some healthy fat today, or my body is telling me that it's low on vegetables. I haven't eaten vegetables today. Or my body is telling me I need to pick me up. I'm going to make a green smoothie for myself. So once you are able to internalize not only the information on the label, but also the foods that your body likes to eat, then you're able to venture off a little bit, have a little more leash, and not feel like you're going to lose control entirely, not burn out, and all of that good stuff. So, just like anything in life, maybe at first you have to really put in that work, but when it comes down to just maintenance of your current weight, have a good balance, and that's going to look different for everyone. But trust me, it's going to free you and make you feel happy and healthy throughout the whole thing. Okay, so when anyone embarks on a journey and they're finding success, they're learning so much, and there's so many benefits, of course you want to tell everyone. You want to tell everyone the good news, the good word, right? It's just like you want to go around and preach the gospel, preach the message because you've just seen incredible results. But guess what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. No one cares until they see you on the other side and they can just look at you as an example. But if all you do is preach, preach, preach and shove it down people's throat, no one's going to want to do what you're telling them to do. Nobody wants to be told what to do and why what they're doing is wrong and your way is right. So don't be that person who's preaching, 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 but instead have a non-verbal way of preaching. So instead of using your words and your mouth to tell everyone how great what you're doing is, instead lead by example. Have a silent confidence about it, and people will notice and they'll ask. But if you go around preaching, 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 it's not going to resonate with anyone unless you can actually do it in a way that is sort of them asking you how to do what you're doing, right? So, although I don't have a concrete strategy for you per se, if you want to share this with your mom, with your dad, with your siblings, with your friends, you're better off leading by example, waiting for them to come to you and ask you what you're doing, and then you can tell them. But nobody wants someone who's just preaching all day long about what they're doing. But of course, right, on social media, it's super fun to educate, put yourself out there, and tell the world what you know. That's all good. I think you should be able to do that. It's just when you try to tell other people why they're wrong, that's when the message doesn't get through to them. So if you can kind of save yourself, meaning like save your own self the time and energy, just try to lead by example and see what happens. And I bet that that will actually be more effective. And at the end of the day, when you've done all the research, you know what you need to know about yourself, about nutrition, the biology and chemistry behind it, and you've been able to kind of get into a rhythm, you're in a good balance. Now it's just about maintenance, and all you need to do is listen to your body. Listen to your body and have the actual correct solutions for what your body is experiencing, right? Let's pretend that you are tired, right? And you start to notice the sensation of tiredness, of sleepiness arise into your body. If you are in tune with your body and you are one with your mind body connection, you will be able to make the connection that tiredness is equating to XYZ, right? Sometimes when we're tired, we think we need to just eat food. Or maybe it's actually that you just need to go to sleep because you did not get a good night's sleep last night. Or maybe you're craving sugar. This is often a sign that you're low in some nutrients and your body wants fast carbohydrates to be able to perk itself up, right? This is usually a sign that you're low in vegetables. So, actually consuming vegetables versus eating sugar will actually solve your body's problem. So maybe you're thirsty, right? Someone who isn't in tune with their body might confuse thirst with hunger and actually go and eat more. However, if you are one with your body, your mind body connection is strong, then you can actually hear your body saying, hey, I'm just thirsty, right? So all you need to do is go grab a glass of water and boom, problem solved. Now, this works the other way around, right? You can hear your body saying it's hungry. Someone who doesn't have a good mind body connection won't honor that hunger and maybe even deliberately starve themselves. They'll say, okay, it's a good thing I'm hungry. Let me just see how long I can go without food now. that may not be a clever thing to do, because down the line, that's going to bite you in the ass. You're going to end up being fatigued at the end of the day and too tired to have that self-control you had earlier, and you're just going to binge eat. This could not be true for everyone, but I know it's true for me. So instead of, pushing it off, listen to your body when it says what it needs and honor that. Go ahead and create a beautiful, healthy meal that's just enough to make the hunger go away, but not too excessive to where you feel completely bloated, and go from there. So as you can see, it works both ways, both with honoring the body by feeding it, and honoring the body by perhaps knowing that food isn't the answer for all of its physiological needs. Maybe it's sleep, maybe it's water, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's socializing, right? But without that strong mind-body connection, we're in big trouble. And I honestly think that that's 99% of the problem in America, is when we don't have a strong mind-body connection. And that's why we're packing on the pounds, not losing weight, and getting frustrated with ourselves. When you live in this way of listening to your body, educating yourself, and learning how to eat in a way that's in alignment with your health and your body's requirements, then there is no conflict, there is no cognitive dissonance, there is no stress. Truly, I feel like for the first time, I don't live in a state of fear, anxiety, depression, or stress. And when I tried to diet and over control myself, and it would just backfire, that's when I had the most anxiety, stress, etc. I struggled with disordered eating myself, so I'm the first person to understand what it's like to not be able to listen to your body properly. And I know it can stem from so many different things. You intentionally trying to diet, it could stem from insecurity, but when you have that education, you're less insecure. When you read the label, you're less insecure. When you're able to find the foods that you are already eating that are healthy, you're less insecure because you're more already on the track. And last but not least, right, having the balance and listening to your body, you're less insecure because you know that there's room for you to give in to your cravings just a little bit. There's room for you to be a human and have fun. And honestly, dieting is just a way to control yourself. It's not actual solution for you. Education is the solution, knowledge is the solution, and balance for maintenance is the solution as well. So I hope that this episode really helped you get some great tips on how to lose weight and maintain that weight loss, and basically all of the tips and tricks that I leveraged myself to get myself into a good healthy weight range. I'm currently 5'4" and 130 pounds, and I love my weight. I really think my body is in its perfect golden weight because I have enough lean muscle mass. I don't have much fat on my body. I have curves and things, but I'm not like overweight, you know what I mean? And I'm not underweight either. I actually think that based on the feedback I've gotten from my friends and the way I look at myself in the mirror every day, I'm incredibly proud and confident in my body, and I have so much self-love, but it took a journey to get here. So if you are in a situation right now where maybe your body isn't happy or you aren't happy psychologically, provide yourself enough space, time, silence, and whatever it is, give yourself grace because it's a process. You can't rush things. It's a process. So if you can just remember how much of a process it truly is, I think that you are bound to run into long-term success, and I will be here cheering you on every step of the journey. So I hope that really helped you. Again, my name is Maddie, and I will be back here making more content on health, wealth, happiness, and living your luxury lifestyle. So be sure to subscribe, like this video, stay tuned, and check out the description to follow me on social media and let me know that you listened to this episode. So again, my name is Maddie, and thank you so much for listening.